Adam, I think you might be on mute.
Better?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Welcome back. Calling the meeting to order. We'll first start out with roll call. Barbara, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, Barbara's here. Darcy?
Yes, I am here.
All right. And I'm also here. So with that done, we'll start with our typical open public comments where we make time for the public to talk to us about anything that they might have on their minds. Is there anyone here that would like to comment?
I don't have anyone here in the hearing room, but we do have someone called in. Please press *6 to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi there, my name's Rob Anderson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. I just want to say thank you to the commissioners. I know that this has been a slog of a process, for you going through, all the procedures and whatnot. So I thank you for doing that. It's kind of a thankless job. I do have 2 complaints that have been submitted, so it's been a little frustrating to kind of, wait to see how this is all going to play out. But I just want to ask the commissioners and remind them that you are an extension of the voters, of the citizens, not of the county government. In fact, it's kind of the design of it through the initiative process that you really, take that perspective. And to be frank, I'm concerned about the process that's been set up. The fact that the HR director is able to give determinations, which clearly by the charter, it says that you alone as commissioners are charged with hearing and ruling on complaints. And I'm very concerned about how much influence the county will have in your decisions. Plus, on top of that, the county attorneys who don't work for the citizens, they work for the county government. They look specifically to protect the county government and employees and liabilities there. And one of my complaints does involve the prosecuting attorney's office. So there is a huge conflict of interest there. And so I just hope that as you're on the verge of getting started on this whole process, that you will really look at this from the citizen's perspective, that ethics are important. And up to this date, there really hasn't been serious consideration for ethics standards. Yes, it's been written in policy, but very, very little enforcement or investigation. So thank you again for your time and effort on this. And I hope that you reconsider the powers given to the HR director and consider as you deliberate on these matters of how the citizens will be really reflected and impacted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
That looks like it's all for public comment.
That's all? Okay. Darcy or Barbara, did either of you guys want to respond to Mr. Anderson?
Well, I appreciate his comments, and we'll certainly take that into consideration.
Darcy, I think you're muted now.
I agree, Barbara. I was going to say exactly the same thing.
And I would too. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for your comments. And I do urge you, as I'm sure you will, to continue to follow along here. The issue about the HR director making a determination is sort of a matter of semantics, I think, because the way that the business processes are spelled out as they flow down through the various parts of the process, that initial determination isn't really determinative of anything until we've had a chance to hear and rule on something. So we've tried to be careful with the language to the extent we can, and it's not perfect, but hopefully the process will result in exactly the kind of transparency and citizen focused focus that you urge us to have. So unless anyone has anything else, I guess we'll move on. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting last week?
Second.
All right, I also vote to approve the minutes, so we have unanimous approval of those minutes.
Chair Murray, if I could chime in for a moment.
Yes.
This is Leslie Lopez. I believe I heard that there was a motion and a second, but I didn't hear that there was a vote. Maybe I
Okay.
just missed that.
Yes, so all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous approval of the minutes has happened. So with the business process, I wondered if, so I spent some time looking through both of them and seeing how they differ. And I wondered if somebody from the county wanted to just kind of present these two options to us and explain what you think are the pros and cons of each.
This is Kathleen. I can hopefully do a quick overview of both, which I believe reflects the discussion with council. So the main difference between the two is when the person in which the complaint is about receives the actual complaint. One of the processes includes providing it after the complaint or after the investigation is complete, but well before a hearing and before the Ethics Review Commission, while the other one provides the complaint to them at the very beginning so that they have that prior to the investigation being complete. I think, and I'll let Leslie and or Chris chime in on here as well. There certainly are pros and cons to either one. On providing a complaint to the person in which the complaint is about at the end of the investigation is a normal HR process. It does preserve, in my opinion, the integrity of that process just to get the full information, and they would still get a copy of that complaint at the end with the report so that they have their time to prep for a potential hearing in front of the Ethics Review Commission. And for me, that's how we do it in the HR world, and it meets the standards for the due process and making sure that they know what is being received. Similarly, if there is a potential discipline or action that needs to be taken as part of that due process, they will have, if it's a non-represented employee, it's called a due process meeting in which they have the opportunity to share all the reasons why they shouldn't be disciplined or have their employment adversely affected. And with unions or guilds, it's a ladder mill process, which is the same thing where they're provided an opportunity to provide information on that should be considered prior to any decision being made that could adversely affect their employment. And I'll hand it over to Leslie to see if she has anything to add, and certainly we can answer any questions.
Can I ask Kathleen a question first? This is Barbara. You mentioned several theys, and I'm not sure which they they're referring to. The complainant, the HR department, or the person who is being complained about, which they it is. Because I don't know how you can have a complete investigation if you don't tell the person who's accused of doing some wrongdoing involved.
So I'll try to answer it, and if I don't answer your question, please let me know. So normally when a complaint is received, there is a receipt memo that is sent to the person who the complaint is about. And it may also identify that there are allegations that they have violated policy 4.0 so that they know what the allegations are. And then the investigation is done. So the interviews happen, we find out who may have been privy to those discussions. The questions are asked of everybody. And then at the end, then they're given the the report from the complaint, but we don't ever share who made the complaint, because there is a concern about retaliation as well. We want to make sure that we're protecting those people who filed complaints. So we don't usually share it for that reason as well. And then I just lost my train of thought on that one. Did that help answer your
Yes,
question?
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, this is Leslie Lopez, and so the other option is providing a copy of the complaint when it comes in to the person that the complaint has been made about. I do recognize that HR handles investigations a certain way. Ethics complaint is something potentially different than an HR complaint. And so in looking at other counties throughout the state, I have noted that there are other counties that for their business processes, they provide a copy of the complaint to the person that the complaint's been made of at the beginning before the investigation. The rationale appears to be likening it to sort of a, although it's not a criminal charge, but for instance, in a criminal matter for due process reasons, someone who's been accused of a crime is noted at the very beginning what they're being accused of and why. This would be a due process allowed to a person whose a complaint's been made. In addition, complaints are subject to public disclosure requirements. And so, for instance, a complaint could be made about a particular individual, and the media could obtain a copy of the complaint, but the individual who's been complained about would not. And so, just for fairness reasons and for due process reasons, would be a good idea to provide it at the beginning of the investigation. Those were the reasons that were discussed. Are there any questions on that?
I don't have questions. Barbara, Darcy?
No, I don't have any questions on that.
So I think my personal view on this and the way that I will vote is to do the version where everyone gets the complaint up front. There may be lots of good reasons, other good reasons both for and against it, but I do think that the fact that it's a public record that can be requested and distributed at any time, before we've necessarily completed the process where we would otherwise distribute the complaint. For me, that's kind of that's what tilts this the most. So do we have more comments, questions, or do you guys want to talk about it some more before we vote?
Can I just ask, I thought we had finalized business processes before, and then it was going to the different unions and guilds. Is this input different now for some reason?
I don't think you ever finalized it because we're still bargaining with 3 of our unions and guilds, but this is different than what was presented to them initially, and the change was brought forward by the county.
By the county or by the guilds and the unions?
The county.
Okay, so what I'm trying to understand is we were presented this business process through the county and we went through it, and then the county comes back and gives us a different version? And why weren't we given this in the first place?
I can't answer that question. I mean, I think it was upon further
the county's
review.
an amorphous kind of thing. It's got to come from a person or a group of people from someplace.
It came from a department within the county. The prosecuting attorney's office came forward with the change.
And they didn't have the first version,
They did have the first version, yes.
but they didn't make the
If,
input.
if you if you recall, we've had quite a few meetings, I would say less than 5, but where you all made live edits as well as made edits based on input from staff, including staff of the PA's office.
Okay, well, I would just really like to suggest if we could get it all compiled in one place at one time, and if everybody could read the whole thing and put their input in, then maybe, I mean, it's been a year and a half we've been putting the bylaws and this in place. And it seems to be that somebody's not reading things because they come back the next meeting and add 2 more lines and put a shall instead of a may. And if we get this, like, get it all in one place and do it. Is
I
that
don't disagree.
unreasonable?
And no, I don't disagree at all. I don't disagree.
Commissioner, I think that is what is being proposed right now. Am I correct,
No,
Kathleen?
No,
That-
we actually had a finalized version that was changed in the middle of the meeting, and suggested edits made by yourself.
Right, but what we're suggesting right now is that the commission look at these versions and choose one.
Which is, I thought, what we did before. And then we get a new version.
Okay, I can't speak to that. Of course, I was not here at your last meeting.
It
And
happened before the last meeting, so that's why I guess I'm confused. Because we vote on it and then it gets changed, and we vote on it and then it gets changed, and it seems to be that somebody's not reading it or something, because it comes back with a change again to change another line that was there before. I don't know if anyone else is frustrated with that process, but I am.
And I would acknowledge that it is frustrating, because we've also had to reach out to unions and guilds more than once as well. So
And I would, I definitely would back up what Commissioner Baskerville is saying, that it is a little bit frustrating that we got to a point with this document where we sent it off for the final bargaining process, and then we got it back with, edits to the language again, which do change things to some extent. And we weren't expecting that, because we would have expected to see changes coming from the bargaining units, and not from the team that's been here for the year and a half that we've been working on these documents. So I just want to back Commissioner Baskerville up on that. And I'm glad that we're now getting to the end of this process, more or less, although we're still waiting for some guilds. And I do think, having gone through the red line changes, I don't see any that, outside of the one that we addressed last week, I don't see any that, give me heartburn. It's just an unfortunate process.
Thank you, Commissioner Murray and Commissioner Baskerville. But I'll just state that it's my understanding that the biggest change that came forth was having to do whether or not the complaint would be provided at the beginning or at the end, and knowing that that would have to be a decision made by the commission. And so that's why there are 2 different versions here. I can't really speak to any of the other changes, but that's what was brought forward. And I think the only other change that was made was to indicate that this process does not, because there is continuing bargaining, that this particular process does not apply to those bargaining groups that are still being bargained. And so today, moving forward, what would need to happen is someone would have to make a motion to adopt one of these business processes, have a second, then there can be further discussion and then a vote on that.
So I would move to adopt, I think this is version 1, where the copy of the original complaint is included with the first complaint memorandum to the person filing the complaint, the individual about whom the complaint was made, and to the commission.
I second that.
Okay, so do we want to talk about it anymore, Darcy, or are you prepared to vote?
Oh, I'm in complete agreement, both with the comments made by Commissioner Baskerville and with the motion. So no, I have nothing to add.
Okay, so everyone in favor of adopting version 1?
Aye.
I
Okay, so all 3 commissioners have voted to adopt version 1, so Kristen or somebody else on the back end can kind of get a clean copy put together and we'll be off and running.
I will,
Speaking of
I
off and
can
running,
clean it up a little bit and accept all the track changes and then get that sent out to everyone.
okay. So then, speaking of being off and running, I'd also like to propose that we agree to some more frequent meetings in the weeks ahead to try to get on top as fast as we can of the complaints that have piled up while we're doing this. So that would be special meetings outside of our quarterly ones, but they'll also be dependent on where the county is and its process of getting the initial determination and memos together. So I wanted to just check Barbara and Darcy if you guys feel like you'd be okay with that, kind of ramping up our meeting schedule a little bit while we deal with these complaints.
definitely agree. I think that's
Agree.
important.
I agree too.
Okay. So,
And if I could ask a question about scheduling, I know your regular meetings you had set up as a hybrid, and that does involve the hearing room here at the county building to be available. Totally up to whatever you all want, but holding them virtually only will allow for a lot more options and flexibility with scheduling. It's doable as a hybrid, absolutely, but that does shorten the amount of options and times we could meet within a short period of time.
Kristen, this is Leslie Lopez. I just wanted to
Yes.
chime in because for these types of meetings, we actually are required. My understanding is unless there's an emergency, we can have them all hybrid, but certainly the commissioners can always be remote, but in order, we would need to have hybrid meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that is no problem at all. I was just
Okay.
thinking ahead for looking
Yeah.
at dates.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
okay, so we'll have to work around that. And then, Kathleen, where are you guys in your process with the complaints as far as, once this business process now that this business process is finalized, it's 15 days from receipt of the complaint, but do you have memos prepared on these complaints already?
No, not yet, but the staff is actually meeting right after this meeting. We do have a tracking system that's being set up is already set up. And so Laura, our HR director, will start working on the initial review, probably starting today or tomorrow. And then we will get that information back to the commission for your next meeting.
Okay. So then I imagine we're going to get copies of the complaints right away.
That is correct. For the business process, you will receive a copy of the complaint receipt memo that will be going out, as well as the complaint that was filed.
Okay, so then looking at the calendar, we could start looking at meetings. Well, let's see. Let me look at the business process here and make sure I have this right.
I'm going to walk away and grab my calendar. So.
Okay, What's the total number of outstanding complaints? We have 4, 5?
We received a few recently. Kristen, can you provide that number? If not, I can look it up really quick.
I
I
believe this is
believe we
Laura.
have 8 submitted.
Okay, I was gonna say 7 or 8 is what I believed.
Okay. So within, after 15 days, we'll need to have an executive session to get the county's memo and presentation of the complaints. 8 is a lot to do at once. So what if we got on a schedule where we could maybe do, what do you guys think? 2?
It was good.
You mean 2 complaints at a time?
2 complaints at a time? Kathleen, does that seem doable on your end?
I would say yes. I think some of them will be more complex and some will be very quick review. So I think that flexibility with you all would be good.
Okay. Is there any possibility that we might be able to get on a weekly schedule where we do 2 of these meetings with the executive sessions, followed by the open public meeting per week? Is that too ambitious?
I don't think so. Laura, I'm going to ask you, because she's our HR director that has to do the initial review as well.
Yeah,
Do you,
what
do you-
I'm kind of thinking right now, Kathleen, is if maybe we could schedule the first set of meetings, not next week, but the week after. That gives us a couple of weeks to make sure that we have all of our processes in order. Because we do have to issue that memo with the complaint out to the complainants as well as those that are noted in the complaint and the commission. So that kind of gives us a period of time to get all of those out right away. And then that week, maybe the first week of June, we could schedule 2 different times that we could review, the first 2, the second 2, or however we want to kind of stage that. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
we can send these all obviously ahead of time so you could actually individually review them before you come together in executive session.
The memos or?
It would be the receipt memos that we would send out, just saying we acknowledge that we received the complaint and here's a copy of the complaint and then the next steps in our process. Now that we have a business process, we can take that and embed that so that the complainant knows what the process is going to look like.
Okay.
And then when we meet in executive session, that would be after my full review of the actual complaint. And then I'll have another memo for you guys to kind of say, does it fall under ethics or not? And let you guys consider that.
Okay. So those executive session meetings starting sometime around probably the 5th or 6th of June or after?
Yes, that's what I would recommend.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Barbara, Darcy?
I'm
Works
good
for
with
me.
that. I just have something on the 5th, so that I can't
All
change.
right. Let me look here.
So
So-
I'm peeking at the calendar and the 5th and the 6th will not work, but Friday the 7th does work as far as room availability.
Okay,
Okay,
Works.
And it looks like the room's available anytime on the 7th before 4:30.
okay. Do we want to do that? Do we want to do a morning meeting, you guys?
fine with me.
I love 10 a.m. meetings. They're my very favorite meetings.
That's a great time for a meeting. I agree.
Okay, 10 on the 7th.
All right. And we'll be trying to address 2 complaints at that meeting. So Kristen, can we look at another week or so out after that?
Yes, the week of the 10th is the following week. Let me take a look. I don't know if it's too soon, but June 11th afternoon works well.
Works
June
well for me.
14th could also work. I'm not here the 14th, but I don't know if that makes that much of a difference.
Prefer the 11th.
I prefer the 11th as well.
Kathleen
Is that
and
enough
Laura, does
turnaround
that-
for you, Laura?
Yeah, if there's any way we would maybe be able to do it about 1 o'clock on the 11th, that would work really well in my current schedule. If I need to move something around, if it needs to be later, I can try to do that though.
1 o'clock works for me.
One's good for me. Adam?
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, 2 more. So moving into the next week.
It looks like Tuesday, the 18th is fairly open, as well as Thursday before 2.
I prefer the 18th. What
For
can-
me, unfortunately, the 18th, I do have negotiations all afternoon with one of our bargaining groups. And that it's pretty challenging for me to try to reorganize that. And I know the 19th is a holiday for the county as well. Would the 21st work for everybody? I don't know if it's available, I guess, Kristen.
Yes, it looks like actually Fridays, we usually don't have too many meetings in here.
I can definitely make that work. I will be on the East Coast for a couple of weeks. So I just need to keep that in mind time-wise.
Well,
I
let's
can
do
make
it
it work too, and we could do it.
in the morning at 10 again.
Yeah, 10 would work wonderfully.
Then that would accommodate
make-
Darcy better.
Well, it would make it, yeah, it would. That would be good.
Be earlier for you than have it late in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That
we're on
was
a roll.
Friday, what time?
Friday the 21st at 10 a.m.
Okay.
All right, and then how's the following week look for everyone? Looks
I'm still on the
pretty
East
open for
Coast,
me.
but it's pretty open.
Thursday, the 27th, before 1, the room is available.
10 o'clock again? Is that good with you, Adam?
It's good with me.
Okay.
Day are we looking at?
The 27th?
27th, okay. Yeah,
Yes,
that works.
I can make the 27th at 10 a.m. work.
So that's 4 of them, and just making sure I wrote them down correctly. I have Friday, June 6th at 10, Tuesday, June 11th at 1,
No, June
Friday,
6th. June 6th is the Thursday.
Ju-
7th, wasn't it?
Friday, June 7th is when it,
Yeah.
I thought we talked about doing it on Friday, June 7th.
Right.
Yeah,
yes, I don't know what I said, I'm sorry. So I have
that's right.
Friday, the 7th at 10, Tuesday, the 11th at 1, Friday, the 21st at 10, Thursday, the 27th at 10.
That's what I have.
Me too. Well, that seems good then. That'll get us through 8 of them, and then we can assess where we are with what we know at that point. Does everybody feel okay about that?
Yep.
Yep.
All righty. Anything else on this before we move on?
This is Leslie Lopez. The only question I had is, depending on which complaints are being reviewed will depend on which attorney will be giving counsel to the Ethics Review Commission. If there's potential conflict, we, may have outside counsel. So I'm just wondering how we know which complaints are going to be which days. Are we going by when they came in, or, is there some mechanism for us making sure that the correct counsel is appearing at the meeting?
We also might need to contact the person who is the subject of the complaint and find out when they are available to attend in order to assign them to a particular date.
The folks that are the complaint is about will not be attending these first initial review meetings.
Why can't they attend them?
It's executive session and it's regarding
Well,
Laura's review.
Yeah,
of the
that's
complaint
true.
To see if it falls under ethics or not.
If I were that person, I would want to hear what the commission did following the executive session. But that's just my thought.
I agree that they would want to, and they certainly can, but I don't think we can really afford to be trying to schedule all these around, people who won't necessarily be necessary to the meetings. I think that would get cumbersome and slow us down. So these aren't the meetings where there'll be hearings, so I think we're good to go.
And I'll just say, in the way that the business process you guys just adopted, the flow of it would be, you guys would come out of executive session and then make that determination in the open public meeting on whether there's, you'll make a motion to rule either that the allegations do not constitute an ethics violation or there is sufficient cause to warrant an investigation. And at that point, if you work through the process, it does say that if it's closed, we'll issue a conclusion memo to all parties that are involved. And if there is sufficient cause, they will also be then notified. We would then contract with a third-party investigator if it's an elected official, I'll put that way. But we would then also notify them. So I think that they would be sufficiently notified of the outcome of the complaint.
Okay, good. Thank you, Laura. Okay, anything else on that subject, the business process and the meetings we're going to have in June?
I think that this is Leslie Lopez again. I think the only other question I had was how you decide which ones are being heard on which day, or when that schedule might come out, just so we can advise attorneys to give advice to the Ethics Review Commission.
I think I would like to hear what is going to work best for Laura, but it would make sense to me if it's possible to do them in the order that they came in. But I think this is a fast enough meeting schedule that I don't know that that's necessarily as important as, everybody being able to come with their ducks in a row.
Yeah, I think my recommendation would be to just take them in the order in which they were received. Because there are, I believe, the first three that we received were in 23. So I would say just go in the order in which we received them. I think would be a logical step with the number we have.
I agree with that.
Me too.
Thank you.
All right, shall we move on?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we've all gotten some questions from the press, and I know that the county has a process for dealing with those, and we haven't really talked about it here amongst ourselves and with all the commissioners present. So we set aside a little time just to talk about it. And I guess I'd like to start, if you guys will indulge me. I have personal opinions about our process here, and I really value making it as transparent as possible. At the same time, I see what we're going to be doing here as kind of quasi judicial, and that I personally wouldn't want to make a comment about any of the cases or the complaints that we're dealing with, other than the ones that we're going to do as part of our process. But everybody who wants to is free to talk to the press, whenever they want about anything they want. That's just my personal view and how I will probably handle situations like that. Darcy and Barbara, did you guys want to talk a little bit about it?
I agree with that position, Adam. I would not want to make comment about any particulars regarding a case unless it's a part of the business process and where we're supposed to be. So I would not choose to speak to the press about anything. Anything other than, well, I
Almost anything.
almost anything, exactly, yeah.
So I'm your I am your assigned legal counsel, and as such, I kind of suggest that one very useful way of responding to the press is to let them know that the county's public information office is available for them to talk to about matters dealing with the county. You are an advisory commission of the county, or a commission of the county. And so the PIO office would be able to respond as to various questions. They're not going to answer things about a pending case either. I'm sure we've all seen in the newspaper, our office doesn't comment on pending litigation. And so I would strongly suggest not commenting personally on pending litigation, remembering that when you do comment, if you do, that you are viewed as speaking on behalf of the commission generally, if you're commenting as a commissioner, which is also speaking on behalf of the county. So again, the best way I think to deal with the press is to let the press professionals in the public information office be in charge of that, remembering that the press can and does have a continuous public records request for all of the sorts of information that's exchanged by and for the commission, emails and so forth, and that they typically also either attend these meetings or view the recordings. So I don't think you're withholding a lot from them if you don't get involved in a Q&A with a reporter about your processes or a case.
That's good input. Thanks, Chris.
Sure.
And I do appreciate if when people who are interested in this process attend to the meetings and make use of the public comment time to whatever extent they can. That's always, I know, or I think I speak for all three of the commissioners that we really appreciate that. Okay, anything else on questions from the press?
No, from me.
Okay, anything for the good of the order? All right, well, we got a lot done today. We've got our marching orders ahead of us for a busy month. So go out there and enjoy the sunshine. Oh, look, it's not sunny anymore.
Certainly not. But I just wanted to confirm we will be receiving the final last copy of the business process, correct? With all the
Yes,
changes?
yes,
Okay,
definitely. I can get that out probably today, if not today, first thing tomorrow morning.
perfect.
Sounds good.
Okay, and then and then I guess we're gonna get probably all 8 of the complaints also right away.
Yes, we should be able to get those to you pretty quickly, Adam. Probably, I would say by the end of the week.
Okay,
Okay, good.
good. All right, then unless anything has anyone has anything else, I think we'll adjourn. All good?
All good.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.
I'll see you. Bye.